Guys, it is me back with another theory video for you. Now today I wanted to talk about something in the Thomas series that has very much pissed off Thomas fans. I'm talking, of course, about the drivers. No, he doesn't look much like a driver, but I don't have any Lego drivers. But anyway, I wanted to discuss why the drivers have become less and less relevant as the television series goes on. As Thomas evolves, the driver kind of just fades into the background. They kind of tried to bring him back in seasons 20 and 19, season 20, and then just forget all about that in season 21. But anyway, let's explain why this little dude right here is becoming irrelevant. I have a few theories. Let's start off with the first and really obvious theory. Hit really wanted to make Thomas a very self-centered story, so they decided pushing the drivers back away would make the children connect more to the engines and make them care less and less about the drivers. It's probably the correct answer, but that's also the lame answer. All right, let's go into an actual theory. So my theory of why the drivers have become less relevant. This I guess could be considered a dumb theory, but kind of works. Is that the driver has never had control of the engine. Now, hear me out. Yes, the driver does technically ride in the cab of the engine. I have to do this with the tender engine. Anyways, yes, he rides in that cab. He does pull some things, but it's the engine itself that controls it. Yes, I guess that could be. I guess you could be like, why though? How can the engine control itself? Well, it's simple. It can roam around freely, but it only demands a driver if maybe a train's too heavy for it. That's why we see the drivers just not pull. That's why we only see the drivers whenever we have a train, for example. The driver's gonna help with that, but if the engine's on its lone self, it can drive all on its own. It doesn't matter. So honestly, this theory, in my opinion, does work well, except there are a few clunkers to this theory. A good example of a problem with this theory is that in Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure, after Thomas was chasing down Skiff, his driver jumps out of his cab. Now, why would his driver jump out if he isn't needed? If the theory is correct, then why would he be there? I mean, the engine wasn't doing anything at night. He should have just left to be with his family. In fact, why would Sailor John just talk to the driver? I'm getting half myself. Same thing with Tale of the Brave, as in when Percy goes on this dangerous thing. You'd also think that the driver would talk some sense into these engines, but no, they let them do the most reckless things in general. Either, if my theory is true, then I guess maybe the people of Sodor are just really stupid. But alright, let's get on to theory number 2. This is a little more of a kind of creepier theory. A little more darker, but not very mature dark, but still. It's that my theory is that the drivers are ghosts that possess the engine. And there's a little remain of the human there that is the drivers, but you can see as the show goes on, they become less and less relevant because they get used to their driver bodies. I mean, if we look at characters like Molly or Rosie, who premiered in the new series, their drivers I don't think have actually ever been seen. So their drivers must have gotten really used to their new bodies, as back then for the 8 main engines, the driver has not yet gotten used to them. So that can work. I mean, it can make sense, although it would be a little unsettling. But then again, this same series that had wall engine, ghost engine, stuff like that. But albeit this theory isn't really one I like because it sounds too much like a creepypasta thing. And honestly, this is going to be the theory I was going to originally do. But then I realized of another theory, my last theory in this thing. What if the drivers are just the imaginations of the engines? Think about how many times the driver actually interacts with people that aren't the engines in the TV series. How often do you see these drivers talk to people like Sir Topham Hatt? Very occasionally. So maybe the driver is just someone the engine just imagines whenever they're on a job or pulling a train. Maybe to have company. And maybe like the show Evolving shows that the engine is growing up, in which the driver becomes, well, thin air. So it's like that imaginary friend you have, but then as you get older, you slowly and slowly forget about them. That could be what's happened. That could be what happened. That, in my opinion, would be the easiest theory to make, because we look at characters like these who have who are apparent whose drivers have been rarely mentioned, albeit Diesel I think has only been mentioned once with a driver. Harry and Bert I don't think have ever been mentioned with a driver. And these drivers just let these engines do the most careless things. Even in Audrey's stories, the drivers don't do too much to help. I mean, you can clearly tell that some things like down episodes like Down the Mine are off the rails. Why is the driver letting the engine do this? Like, it makes you think that the engine does have control, because it's clear that the driver wouldn't drive Gordon drive him into a lake, or Thomas into a mine, because why would they do that? Because that's like threatening their own lives. Also, not to mention characters like Harvey or Diesel 10 who have these claw things on them, in which, how are they supposed to move these around? Like, I mean, I guess there could be a driver doing them, but there's no controls in Harvey from what we've seen into where a driver would need to take them. Also, yeah. It also helps with the many episodes. Going to the recent episode Stuck in Gear from season 21, Harvey is shown that he has a stuck crooked thing and he doesn't want to get helped. Now, why wouldn't the driver tell Harvey to go get help for him? The answer's simple. He's technically not there, because Harvey is slowly evolving. And yes, the driver's still there, kind of, but he's not helping with advice. In fact, characters like the logging bozos have never had drivers, probably because they grew up too quickly, or maybe were raised in a bad home. So out of the three theories, I would say theory number 3, that the drivers are just imaginary, works the best. Second one, I would say the driver has not as much control and has less care, would be the second one. And then the worst one, in my opinion, would be the drivers are just possessing the engine. Anyways, in the comments below, tell me what you think about this whole driver conundrum. It's been driving me crazy for a while, and I've been wanting to talk about this. Also, thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button. And if you want more Thomas theories like this, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!